Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jai Krishna Balaram. Jai Nitai Gauranga, Jai Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jai Nitai Gauranga. Jai Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jam Vishnupad Brahmans Parivrajacharya Sto Darshan His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nidai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Naranam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 24. Parthiva daruno dhumas tasmadagnistrayimayaha tamsastu rajastasmad sattvam yad brahma darshanam. Parthiva daruno dhumas tasmadagnistrayimayaha tamsastu rajastasmad sattvam yad brahma darshanam. Parthiva daruno dhumas tasmadagnistrayimayaha tamsastu rajastasmad sattvam yad brahma darshanam. Parthiva daruno dhumas tasmadagnistrayimayaha rajastasmad sattvam yad brahma darshanam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood, and fire is still better. For by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas, but goodness, sattva, is best, because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. Please repeat the translation. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood, and fire is still better. For by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion is better than ignorance, but goodness is best because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. As explained above, one can get release from the conditioned life of material existence by devotional service to the personality of Godhead. It is further comprehended herein that one has to rise to the platform of the mode of goodness, sattva, so that one can be eligible for the devotional service of the Lord. But if there are impediments on the progressive path, anyone, even from the platform of tamas, can gradually rise to the sattva platform by the expert direction of the spiritual master. Sincere candidates must therefore approach an expert spiritual master for such a progressive march, and the bona fide expert spiritual master is competent to direct a disciple from any stage of life, tamas, rajas, or sattva. It is a mistake, therefore, to consider that worship of any quality or any form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally beneficial. Except Vishnu, all separated forms are manifested under the conditions of material energy, and therefore the forms of material energy cannot help anyone to rise to the platform of sattva, which alone can liberate a person from material bondage. The uncivilized state of life, or the life of the lower animals, is controlled by the mode of tamas. The civilized life of man, with a passion for various types of material benefits, is the stage of rajas. The rajas stage of life gives a slight clue to the realization of the absolute truth in the forms of fine sentiments in philosophy, art, and culture, with moral and ethical principles. But the mode of sattva is still higher stage of material quality, which actually helps one in realizing the absolute truth. In other words, there is a qualitative difference between the different kinds of worshipping methods as well as the respective results derived from the predominating deities, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Hara. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Nama Om Vaishnavadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nidinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Bhashya Dadeshadarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So in just previous verse we saw that how the Supreme Lord, he indirectly associates with the three modes of material nature, Sattvagun, Rajagun and Tamagun, and this is called the Guna Avatar. So he takes the form of Brahma, Vishnu and Hara, Mahesh, the Lord Shiva. And then Lord deals with all these different modes. But in that previous verse it was explained that Shreyamsi Tatra Khalu Sattvatano Nanam Shuhu, that ultimate benefit is derived from Sattvatano Nanam, which is basically refer to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So Lord Shiva is there, Brahma is there, but ultimately if anybody is interested in deriving the ultimate benefit, then one should worship the Supreme Lord. So having explained that, here now further explained in this particular verse as Parthivad Daruno Dhumas. Parthivad means Prithvi, earth. So from the earth comes Daru. Which Daru? Not that liquor Daru. Daru means the wood. So firewood is a transformation of earth. There is already transformation here. Firewood is a transformation of earth. So Parthiva Daruno, and then the Daru, the wood, it transforms into further Dhuma. Dhuma means the smoke. And then from a smoke after that, Tasmad Agnis, the fire comes. So it is said here that smoke is better than the raw wood. So basically the understanding is, Prabhupada explains that there is a fire in the wood, but it is not manifested. It is covered. Unless you activate, then the fire comes. But before fire, what comes? Smoke comes. So this is what has been explained here, that smoke is better than the raw wood. In the raw wood, there is no symptom of fire. But in the smoke, there is some symptom of fire. Some little heat is there, but still you don't see the full fire. So smoke is better than the raw wood, and fire is still better. So why this example is being used? Very nicely it is used, this example here. That anyone who wants to Sattvam Yad Brahma Darshanam, anybody wants to see the Brahma Darshanam, anybody wants to understand the absolute truth, then what you need? You need, which we already saw in the previous verse, you need Vishnu. Worship of Supreme Lord Vishnu. Yeah, worship of Lord Shiva is good. Worship of Brahma is also good. But if somebody is interested in Brahma Darshanam, want to understand the absolute truth, then one should only go to the fire, which is worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Right. So there are different stages of fire. One stage of fire is wood, another stage of fire is smoke, and then there is actual fire. So in the same way, these are different forms of the Supreme Lord, like Guna Avatar, Brahma, Shiva. They're all forms of Supreme Lord only. But the real fire is Vishnu only, Vishnu worship. So it's important here to understand that there is a fire in the wood. Like sometime, you see the earth. Earth is potential to produce the wood. But sometime it may happen that some part of the earth, which is like a barren land, nothing produces there. Right? So in the same way, this example has been used here, that there are three different modes: Satagun, Rajagun and Tamagun. And this human form of life has the potency to realize the absolute truth. So it is just like a land which can produce the wood, which will ultimately result in the fire. That potency is there. But sometimes that land is barren, then nothing grows there. So in the same way, this human form of life has the potency to realize the absolute truth. But if somebody is in mode of ignorance, it's like a barren land. That potency is fully covered. They can never understand the absolute truth. Right? So it is very, very important here. So this verse is explaining that there has to be a gradual evolution from ignorance to passion to ultimately goodness. Right? So passion is better than ignorance, because ignorance, what happens? Nothing happens. Nothing grows in Tamoguna. But in the passion, a lot of things can happen. The person who is very passionate, he is always active. Constantly active. Right, in the 14th chapter, Krishna explains all that. Those verses. That how? What is that verse? Anybody remembers? 14th chapter. The symptoms of Rajoguna is Rajo Ragatmakam Viddhi Trishna Sangsamudbhavam. So the symptom of Rajoguna is there is Trishna, there are a lot of desires, there are a lot of activities, a lot of attachment. So this is the nature of Rajogun. So it is better than Tamagun, because Tamagun, the person is not even active. So Rajoguna is better. But Prabhupada explains that yes, Rajogun, though it is good, it is active, but this is like action without proper intelligence, proper guidance. Example is, Prabhupada gives the example of a monkey. Very active, very passionate, all the time jumping from one branch to another branch. But does it result in any productivity? It just creates disturbance only. Right? So the people, those who are in passion, they're very active, they do a lot of hard work, but there is no meaning. They just unnecessarily create the disturbance. Like the monkey keep creating the disturbance. Right? So it is not only just passion is good enough. Yes, one should be very passionate to do the things. But also one should be guided also that how to do the things and what are the things that I should be doing. Otherwise it will be like a monkey active, jumping around and just creating the disturbance all around. There is one verse in the scriptures we keep reading many times. Anybody remembers? Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatri ki vidimana Ekante ki Harer Bhakti Utpatayeb Kalbhade. So if somebody is very active but without the reference of Shruti, Smriti, Puran, no guidance from the scriptures, no proper guidance, then that person is Utpat Eva Kalbhade. He is just creating Utpat only. It's creating disturbance. So this is passion. So passion is better than ignorance because the person is lazy there, doing nothing, always indolence, sleep, lazy, procrastinating. So that is ruled out. Passion is good, but passion is also result in all this kind of unnecessary activities. So it is not just being active alone enough, but having the right guidance how to be active. Sometime Prabhupada was giving the example of this High Court judge who's sitting on a seat and seemingly looks like he's not doing anything. He's just talking only. Wherein another person, in the say court, some peon or someone, he's just going back and forth, bring water, bring tea, do this, do that, ring some bell or so many other things. So that person might look very active. And the person who is sitting on a seat of a high court judge looks like he's not at all active, he's just simply sitting in one place. Who is better? Everybody knows who's better. High court judge. So it is because his job is of the intelligence. He's an intelligent person. So just being active is not enough. One should be also very, very intelligent. And that intelligence, that clarity, that sobriety, how to act, I want to do this whole day like a monkey. Not good. One should be sober also. So the sobriety comes only when somebody is in goodness. Now this is what is this verse is explaining. And let us understand this verse in our context, like how it is applicable to all of us. If in our devotional life there is not enough satoguna, the mode of goodness is not cultivated, there is a possibility that somebody is very active, very passionate, but not at all sober. They want to do so many things, but why they want to do? In the mode of passion. And the symptom of passion is Rajo Ragatmagam Vidhi Trishna Samodbhavam. There is a desire. Desire for, it can be any desire. Not necessarily some gross desire, but mostly it can be some subtle desire, some puja, pratishtha, labh, their ego. I am so important, I have to prove myself, I am better than somebody. So the passion will lead to all those kind of things, which is a kind of an impediment for our spiritual progression. So this verse is explaining that one has to be on the platform of Satogun. If you are interested in Sattvam Yad Brahma Darshanam, if we are interested in knowing and understanding the absolute truth, then Sattva Guna is the platform. Before that, it is not possible only. Alright. So unless we come to like it is, unless there is a fire, there might be a lot of wood, but what you can do with the wood? Unless you ignite the wood, unless there is a fire, nothing productive comes out of the wood, right? If you have to do some cooking or so many other things, it has to be in the fire state, not on the wood state. So in the same way, if you want to understand this absolute truth, you want to really make our spiritual life successful, then there has to be a gradual evolution from ignorance to passion to ultimately sattvagun, right? And that is where is the platform where our real spiritual life begins. So this is this verse. So Prabhupada explained this, that evolution is very, very important. If one is not on the platform of sattvagun, one can never understand the absolute truth. Prabhupada was giving the example of all these intellectuals, the great scientists and the philosophers, and they're working hard, they're spending like millions and billions of dollars to understand the origin, the source of this creation. So basically, indirectly, they're trying to understand the absolute truth. They may not put it that way, but this is what they're trying to understand, the source of entire creation and everything. But you see, the scientists, they can never understand the absolute truth just by the mere dint of their intellectual abilities, their logical abilities and all of that, because they are not on the platform of goodness. They're in passion. So they might be very intelligent, very active, but they will never understand the absolute truth. So this is the point. So very, very important that this verse is explaining through this example that smoke is better than the wood and the fire is the best. The passion is better than the ignorance, but goodness is the best. Right? So Krishna explains in goodness what happens, that there is a knowledge, there is a clarity, and there is a purity. These are the symptoms of the mode of goodness, somebody. So there's a lot of clarity that what should be done and how it should be done. In the Rajogun, there's a lot of ambition, a lot of desire, a lot of attachment, and that makes a person restless. A person cannot be happy and peaceful. He'll be constantly restless. And Tamagun means it's full darkness, laziness, illusion, and then there's no hope for any kind of spiritual life in that. Okay, so let us spend few minutes to understand this Sattvagun. Prabhupada explains in one place, Sattvagun is like a clean glass, transparent glass, through which spiritual knowledge can be seen clearly. It's a very important principle. We can apply in so many ways all these things. Very, very profound concepts. Krishna talks in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So we can apply to ourselves and we can apply in our preaching also. Like sometimes, we experience that you're telling something, some simple things to someone, but that person doesn't understand anything. Like you say A, he understands B. They don't understand anything and you wonder like why he's not understanding such a simple thing. And sometimes we might get agitated. Sometimes we kind of, just give up on that person. But here we understand why that person is not understanding, because he's in a different mode. He's not on the level of nowhere, anywhere close to Sattvagun. He might be in ignorance. He might be very intellectual, materially speaking, but he might be in either passion or ignorance. You tell him anything about Krishna consciousness, nothing makes sense. On the contrary, you will see a person, you just tell something little bit and they immediately grasp. They understand. They ask more questions. They get clarity. They ask, they seek more clarification, and they very quickly they progress. So how do we understand? Very simple. We understand from this, that one person is in goodness, another person is either in passion or ignorance. So this is how we can understand. So Prabhupada explained that knowledge can be received only in the mode of goodness. If we are not in goodness, we might be hearing all these classes, we might be reading the books, but that is not necessarily knowledge. It doesn't really get into our head. It doesn't sink into us. As a theory, we know, oh yeah, I know this story, I know that verse, I know that thing also, I remember. That is not equal to knowledge. That is just information. But a person is not in goodness, it doesn't really sink into that person. Like many times we keep hearing some simple things, but it doesn't reflect in our action. It means the goodness is lacking and the things are not getting absorbed inside. That's the problem. Because Prabhupada is saying the knowledge can be received only in the mode of goodness. Some practical things, like in the Bhagavatam class, if we are not attentive, we are not listening, we are not developing the interest. This is boring. We don't say that it's boring, but action speaks louder than words. Or body language, somebody sleeping. There might be also another reason like somebody is not rested well. But if there's no interest is coming in the Bhagavatam, we are just sitting and just waiting and like mindlessly, significantly that goodness is missing there. It is either ignorance, tamogun, or sometimes it is rajogun. Too much of things are going on in the mind, thinking 100 things, not paying attention what has been discussed in the class. Right? So see how the lack of goodness will impact our spiritual practices or spiritual progress. So it is very, very important that we have to have this sattva. And when we are in sattva, what happens with the sattva? Few things we can think. One thing is there is a clarity of understanding. So one can very easily distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. Simple things like our philosophy is, I am not the body, I am the soul. For some outsiders, a materialistic Rajoguni person, he says, what you guys are like talking? That makes sense. At least somebody is in Sattvagun, he will agree to that concept. Realization is a different thing. But he says, oh, I understand. So some clarity is there. So Sattvagun brings the clarity of understanding. And one can very easily grasp all these scriptures, Gita and Bhagavatam. And more we try to grasp all this knowledge, then it clarifies all our doubts. This is one of the result of being in Sattvagun. So this is clarity of understanding. Second item. If somebody is in Sattvagun, control over mind and senses will happen relatively easy. Wherein a person who is in passion or ignorance, forget it. So by Sattvagun we can control our mind and senses. Sattvagun very naturally supports this self-discipline. What is the practical things in this in our life, day-to-day life? Control our mind and senses. Some practical things that will be applicable to all of us. What comes to your mind? Control of mind and senses. How do we control? What happens? How does it reflect? Simple things like getting up early in the morning. One thing. What happens is, sometimes body might be tired or something once in a while. That body really needs rest because you are exhausted. But most of the time it is mind. It's mind's game. Early morning mind will give you like 100 reasons that why you should not be waking up for Mangalarti. I'm tired, I was too late, whole day I'm like it's a long day, so better I'll take rest now only. I'm a little sick, I have cold, I have throat pain. 100 reasons mind will give. But the person is in full ignorance. That Sattvagun is not there. So he can't control and then he'll just listen to the mind and then go back to further Tamagun. So you see how you're talking about the Sattvagun. It brings clarity of understanding. It brings control over mind and senses. Like he's telling like controlling or temptations to look at the mobile. Especially when you're sleeping in the night. When you go to the bed, with the mobile in the hand, keep scrolling, keep watching and waste the time and also contaminate the consciousness. So that is Tamagun. Right? So this Sattvagun helps to control the mind senses. And then our mind is a little controlled, a little more peaceful, more sattvic. Then it will result in attentive chanting. Sometimes, like all of us, I'm sure that might have experienced that. Sometimes you are too passionate, so much, you're too hyper. 100 things are going on in mind. You're thinking this, that, and you're chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Like a background sound. Right? So, Sattvagun helps to chant attentively, get up early in the morning, attend the sadhana, and also it's very easy to follow all these regulative principles. So through Satogun or spiritual practices, it becomes very sustainable. So it brings clarity, it brings control over mind and senses, and that makes our spiritual practices sustainable. A person is not in Satogun one day full Josh. Hari bol jumping. Next day gayab. People are finding where is that person missing. He is hiding somewhere, sleeping in the mood. So that is not what is the spiritual life is. Spiritual life means sustainable. Right? Prabhupada talks about, Rupa Goswami talks about that principle in Bhakti, what is that? Bhakti, no, not Rasamra Sindhu. What is that? Updeshamrat, nectar of instruction. What is the principle? Sixth principle, which is favorable for Bhakti. Ussaha, Nishya, Dhairya, Tat Karma Pravartana. So one of the item is Ussaha. Now you know what is Ussaha? It is very interesting. You read that purport. Prabhupada's words are very, very deep actually. One should contemplate on those words. People think Ussaha means jumping in the Kirtan. Definitely that is Ussaha. And all the time jumping, frolicking and who say this person is so enthusiastic. That is one type of Ussaha. But real Ussaha is, Prabhupada says, sustained commitment. That is what the Ussaha means. That your commitment to whatever, that every day, sadhana, chanting, reading, whatever Prabhupada has given us, sustained. Otherwise, mind will be just finding 100 reasons of not doing that. But despite all those reasons, you say, I am just committed to this. And it is sustainable. So that can come only when somebody is in Satogun. Okay. What are the other benefits? So, clarity in understanding, control over mind and senses, that brings, Satogun brings that. What else? What you can think? Discipline. Also, the Satogun actually helps us to taste the higher things. Right? Like you start enjoying the chanting. That okay, I have to chant. Sit here and then finish before this time. Complete. I'll not be distracted. I don't want to be distracted. So it's kind of a taste. And no, in between chanting, I don't want to talk. I don't want to get distracted. I don't want to look at the phone. I don't want to talk to anyone. It's a taste. Because you said you're serious now about your chanting. So that Satogun, it brings. It gives you inner satisfaction. That okay, let me just nicely chant. Let me nicely read. And all of those things. And nicely try to absorb myself in Kirtan. Not just tick mark presence. That I was there in the Kirtan. 100%. Where is your mind? So person who is not in Satogun, he'll not be able to, enjoy all those things. So these are the tests for all of us sadhakas. We should contemplate, we should meditate on all this. Where is my mind? I'm enjoying. I'm looking forward for all those things. Sadhana, chanting, reading, Kirtan, little bit more Kirtan, 2 minutes, because you are enjoying all that. So Satogun actually helps us to taste all this. Studying the scriptures, discussing among the devotees that I want to know it more deeply. What is being said here in the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, learning some verses, learning some, Vaishnava songs. All this will happen only when somebody is in Satogun. If all this is not happening, something is seriously wrong for our spiritual life. We are not progressing. It's all tick mark. Right? So as Krishna says, that happiness, which is in the beginning, the poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end. That kind of happiness is happiness in goodness. In the 18th chapter, Krishna explains. So the happiness of goodness is poison in the beginning. Getting up early morning, poison. Being in the sadhana, not going anywhere. Your mind is giving you 100 reasons. Do this, go just 2 minutes here, there. But you are just kind of restricted yourself. It is a little poison. It's austerity, it's tapasya, restriction. But this is what it is, the happiness and goodness. So we should look for all those kind of things. Right? And also, when somebody is in Satogun, then naturally that person is very truthful. And then is very compassionate, non-violent, clean. Non-violent in the sense, devotees doesn't do any violence as such. But our violence can happen sometime through our words. We speak a little harshly rudely, loudly, and all of that. It's kind of a violence, hurting others. But a person is in Satogun, he'll be very gentle, very soft, nicely. He will still express the things, but in a right way and with the right attitude. So this is what all the Satogun brings. And all this what we are discussing is these things are all favorable for our spiritual progress. That is why this Satoguna is very, very important principle. Now, one important thing is Prabhupada explains very clearly. One should not mistake that Satoguna is the goal. Satoguna is not in itself is spiritual. There might be so many other people who are very sattvic people in the outside world. They have no connection with Krishna, but very gentle, very soft, very disciplined, very nice, very planned, and all of that. We don't call that, oh, he is such a spiritual person. So Satogun in itself is nothing to do with the spirituality. It is kind of a runway. It is a runway to take the flight off. Right. So Satogun is a runway, but flight has to take off. So we had to practice all these principles of devotional service. Just Satogun is not enough. Right. But Satogun is a very favorable platform. So this is what it offers. And then finally, that Prabhupada says that devotional service must be performed on the platform of Satogun to advance steadily. Right. So this is what the Satogun is there. Any other thought comes about Satogun, what all it offers? So let us just quickly recall what we discussed. Other I'll forget again. What Satogun offers? Okay, it offers clarity of understanding. You can very easily understand all the scriptures, all these principles. Yes. What next? Control. It helps to control the mind and the senses. You are more regulated. It's easy to wake up and follow the principles and then chant attentively without any distraction. You control your mind. Say, okay, let me just be focused here for next 2 hours, my chanting. This is my Bhagavatam time. Keep aside everything, all these mobile notifications, messages, temptations and all of that. Let me just be focused and start enjoying. So this is control. What else? Sorry? Activeness? Yes. Active, the Rajogun person is also very active, but he is active like a monkey. Yeah, the third thing is we talk about Satogun brings the higher taste. You actually start enjoying, attending sadhana, chanting, reading, learning the scriptures, talking all this, philosophy, Krishna consciousness and all of that. In Satogun, all this will happen. And then naturally, a lot of ethical living, that very truthful, very compassionate, non-violent and all of that. Now let us little bit talk about if we lack this Satogun, what happens? So we understood that this verse is telling that Satogun is very, very important runway to take off the flight. If you are really interested in, progress in spiritual life, Sattvam Tad Brahma Darshanam. If somebody is interested in Brahma Darshanam, knowing the absolute truth, minimum is one should be Sattvic. Now let us just last few minutes to understand what if we lack this Satogun, what will happen? So somebody is very passionate, Rajasic person, hyper. What happens to that person? Mind is like a monkey jumping around, not focused in one thing. No sense control. 1 minute to say something, next minute they say something else. Sitting here in the class, thinking of something else. Sitting in the chanting, planning a whole day, and all of those. So it is very, very deteriorating for our spiritual progress, right? So this restlessness in the mind, very disastrous. That is why Krishna says, Ekaha Kuru Nandana. We had to practice this. We have Sayatmika Buddhi, one thing at a time. But in Rajogun, you cannot have that. We have Sayatmika Buddhi. You are restless. You are just jumping branch to branch like that. Bahu Shakha Hi Anantasya Buddhayo Avavasayinam. Krishna talks about all that. Bahu Shakha. Your intelligence is many branched. 1 minute you are thinking about this, next minute thinking about that, next minute thinking about that. Something is going on. You are not focused on anything. One can't progress. So this is restlessness, over planning, over reflecting, and then result oriented mentality. So these are the symptoms and the impact of all those symptoms. What happens? Somebody is very restless. Then all our practices are very, very mechanical. Chanting is mechanical. Attending the sadhana is mechanical. Reading the scriptures, everything is mechanical, just tick mark. Because mind is restless. You are not focusing on anything. Right? So everything becomes mechanical. It doesn't help you to progress further. And then somebody is too result oriented kind of mentality, then that is also not good thing. It is like service mixed with all ego, desires and all of that. And then our planning and our reflecting is result in all this burnout either or frustration. So this is that if somebody is lacking the sattvagun and too much in the rajagun, this is what will happen. In passion, one is active but blind. So this activeness is not enough. And if it is, so okay, rajaguna is still okay, the person is active. But somebody is in tamoguna, what happens? What are the symptoms of tamoguna? Laziness, right? Procrastination, we'll do later. Chanting is pending, we'll do later. And then when later? 10 o'clock in the night. Because after that there's no other option. So it may happen. Reading, do later. When later? Krishna only knows when later. It has not happened in 1 year. Later. It's all tamoguna. So all this laziness, procrastination, excessive sleep and all of that, and it all impacts our spiritual life. When somebody is lazy, there's no loss, there's loss of motivation. Nothing motivates that person. Is lazy. Right? And then somebody is procrastinating, then that will directly impact our neglect of sadhana. Procrastinating the things. I'll do later. So negliging your sadhana. And then somebody is in kind of intoxicated state, sleeping and all that. Then they're full of doubts. No clarity on what is happening. Why I am here. Why did I come to temple? No clarity. Other things will just take over. This problem, that problem, this person said like that, this person spoke like this, he did not respect me enough, and I had to raise my voice. No clarity. Tamoguni person. Okay, my goal was not for all these things here. That will go on, all these problems. But my goal is much higher than all of those things. But that clarity won't come. Tamagun, Rajagun. This is what is the nature of all this Tamagun, distorted intelligence without sattva. And when intelligence is distorted, what happens, The wrong things appear right. Sometimes, our behavior is wrong, our attitude is wrong, our actions are wrong. But when intelligence is distorted, everything appears right. You will find 100 reasons to justify all your wrong actions with a distorted intelligence. So this is what happens when we are not sattvic enough. Right? All kinds of harmful habits, they feel justified. There might be so many harmful habits. So one should be very, very careful. Otherwise, spiritual life will become very, very burdensome. And it happens. It can happen and it may happen. So one should be like on guard. Many times devotees say, it has been already 20 years in the movement. I've been chanting, but no taste. No excitement for chanting, reading. And if we don't say, we should contemplate. Is there any taste for chanting, reading, all our core Krishna conscious activities? If that is not happening, something is seriously missing there. Right? And then everything feels like very burdensome. Why somebody is pushing us for sadhana? Why somebody is pushing for all this reading? We are grown up people. Don't remind us. So all this can happen. And then bhakti remains very, very unstable. As I was saying, one day like super excited. You will see the person touching the roof, jumping in the girdan. Next day, gayab. Not found on the roof or on the terrace or on the ground and nowhere. He's hiding somewhere. This is the kind of unsustainable, unstable bhakti. It happens when there's no enough sattvagun, right? And very easily one can get distracted by the sense objects. And then finally it will result in what? No real, and the deep transformation. It remains just mechanical. So it is very, very important. And I think all of us, we know already that we understood Satagun is important. Now, question is how to develop this Satagun. Any tips? Any clue how to develop Satagun? What are some practical tips that we can apply? Yeah, that is a very, very important principle. There's a very profound verse. This Yukta Har Vyarasha. One should contemplate, especially all the devotees and brahmacharis and everyone, of course, should meditate on this verse. Though we say that for chanting the holy name, there's tatra arpita niyamata smarane nakala, there's no rules, no regulations. Yes, that is true. But still all these rules and regulations impacts us very significantly. Or habits, Yukta Har. What you eat, when do you eat, how much you eat, right? So generally it is recommended that one should eat moderate quantity. Though it is all prasadam. This is all transcendental. Let me eat some 20 rasgulla, transcendental. We had to face the consequences of all of that. Maybe in the young age it is okay. But later it should be all regulated. And then what time you eat. It is all prasadam. We can eat any time at 10 o'clock also. Devotees are very expert also. They say, oh no, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one pastime. That one devotee, Brahmana, who brought the prasadam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as soon as he woke up, he just immediately ate. He did not even, bother to brush his teeth. And so anytime is okay. Prasadam is like that, transcendental. So suddenly at 12 o'clock, my eyes opens and then let me eat something. No, all these random things, we can't do that. Right? It's very important. So the food is important. And overall our dincharya, overall our routine, daily routine, which includes our sleeping time, or getting up time, or chanting time, or reading time, or seva time. So everything should be done on the time, same time, every day, and also done in a balanced way. It cannot be just work all the time. Or it cannot be whole day I'm just reading. Everything should be balanced like that. So our food helps, and our routine, overall routine, like sleeping, food and all that. And then our association is very, very important. How do we associate? When we spend a good quality time with the devotees. Now, spending time with the devotees is not like sitting, eating and then gossiping. And just hoo and all that is going on. It's a very nice association, 1 hour. We didn't realize 1 hour went by. No, that is not association. Association means there has to be. What are the 3 things about association I told in one of the sessions? Let me see if anybody remembers. 3 things. How do you understand that this was really a devotee association? Prabhupada explains that association is not about just physical proximity, that we are all sitting together. What is association means? Krishna Katha, that is one, very important. Yeah, that is all Krishna Katha. So there has to be Krishna Katha, has to happen. Knowledge transfer has to happen. Knowledge transfer means, oh, I read this, this is my realization, that is your realization. We share, bodhyantasya parasparam. That should happen. Krishna Katha, KK, KT, knowledge transfer. And the most important thing is HT, heart transformation. Heart transformation means when you associate with a devotee, you should feel inspired. After talking to this devotee, I feel like I should also improve my reading, should also improve my chanting, I should also be more regulated, and I should also spend more hours in my seva. Some inspiration should come in that association. So that is heart transformation. That is what the association is. So association helps. And then, how do we maintain ourselves? The cleanliness, external cleanliness and internal cleanliness. That will also help us to increase the Sattva-gun. And this is how we can just increase our Sattva-gun gradually. And then if there's no Sattva-gun, there's no clarity. There's no sustainable bhakti. So that is why it is important that we cultivate Sattva-gun. And then we can practically do the bhakti. And then finally, when we do the bhakti, then Krishna says, Mamya Vyabhicharena Bhakti Yogana Sevade Sagunan Samdityetan Brahma Bhuyaya Galpade. ultimate goal is that go beyond all the modes. So first we become sattvic. Through sattvic we start doing the devotional service, and when we engage ourselves nicely, sincerely, committedly in devotional service, it helps us to transcend all the influence of all kinds of modes. So this verse is explaining here that Satoguna is the highest. Passion is better than ignorance, but Sattva is better than Rajogun. Okay, so we can stop here. Yes, unless anybody has question. Now, Prabhupada is writing in the purport that if somebody goes to a bona fide spiritual master, take his shelter, follow his instruction, then no matter that what background one comes from. We might be in Tamagun, but at least just be strict to what a spiritual master says. So if that determination somewhere it can come, the desire can come that I had to follow this, what my guru says. But you understand, yeah, I know, but I'm in Tamagun already, I'm not able to follow. So then seek some help. Somebody is in Tamagun is like somebody is in a ditch, somebody is outside. So they say, call out, hey, can you please lift me a little bit up? Can you give me your hand? I can hold your hand, and that is what the whole idea of this association of devotees. It happens. Krishna says that we are not always like very fixed in one guna. Sometimes it's satogun, sometimes it is tamogun, so it's fluctuating. So whenever you are down, take the help. At least know that how to deal with it. You can't deal yourself, but say, hey, can you please help me? I'm just, just stretch your hand and try to hold somebody's hand. That is where the association of devotees plays a very significant role. That very proactively one should kind of, feel and hold ourselves responsible, or you find someone, some devotee whom you kind of voluntarily go and report, submissively that this is what is going on. I'm not doing some things which is right, I know, but I'm not able to come out from that. So this is one of the principles that Rupa Goswami says, Guhya Makya Dibrachati. So these are all practical guidelines given by the acharyas. When sometime when we are in the ditch, we are in the tamagun, at least understand that you are in tamagun. Or sometime if we are in so much tamagun that we don't even have the ability to realize that I am in tamagun. But at least somebody will come and tell you, hey, you are in tamagun. That time you say, okay, can you please help me to take out? That Guhya Makya Diprachati has to happen. That I know I am doing all kinds of nonsense. This is happening behind the curtain. And it's too dangerous. I realize, but I'm not able to come out. Please help me. So these are some practical things that our Acharya says. It has to be practiced. We think, no, I'll only deal, and if I go and tell some other devotee, this is what is going on and what they will think of me, probably they will also, be mad on me and like scold me. And so be ready for all those things, but still you have to take the help. So these are the things that we can do, and gradually I think we can come out with that. Yes, hippies, the only good thing about all those hippies were they're just fascinated to Prabhupada. Whatever Prabhupada says, they don't know what he's saying, but they're just attracted to Prabhupada. And when that attraction, they'll just follow whatever he says. So this is what is the hope for all of us. The spiritual master says we should just be willing to follow that and take help from the devotees. Okay. Let's stop with this. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So we'll have a very quick ashram meeting there while in the Prasadam hall. So I request